Okay, we have, I think it's a 14 Jeep Cherokee here, and it's got that oil cooler leak around the oil filter housing down in there. So basically I'm going to start the rip down process and get the intake manifold and stuff off, air box and everything off of it, get all this stuff out of here so I can get to this to replace it. So it's just kind of plug and play, not going to be too hard, pretty simple to get down there. You're going to lose a little coolant, probably going to want to change the oil when you're done. I'm going to be very careful because I want to get this to the dealership and change it there. But for those of you that have the means to do it at home, I would change the oil immediately when I was done, and make sure you top off your coolant, because you're going to lose a little bit when you pull the hose going to the cooler, because it's got a coolant inlet on the actual housing. Okay, so just some points up front to show you what I've already done. I've disconnected the intermediate tube between the gearbox and the actual plenum for the induction side. I removed the purge valve from being mounted up here and pulled it off to the side. I also took the crankcase line that goes from the side over here of the valve cover, moved it up to the front, and I just want to kind of lay all this out of my way. I'm going to try to take off as minimal as possible so I don't have to. I'm trying to do this as if I've done this all the time. You know, I'm not a Chrysler tech, I'm a Ford Master Tech, but this looks like a lot of our engines, so I'm trying to take off stuff that's necessary and leave stuff on that is unnecessary to remove, to make it easier for the person that would be watching this video to install, out of consideration for you. Now, I may take something off because I don't do this every day on Chrysler products, Jeep products, for those that would be offended me calling this a Chrysler. But yeah, I'm just going to do the best that I can and get this cooler out of here so we can see exactly where the leak is and then put the new one in. So I'm also going to continue, going to remove the airbox now, and then I'm going to look at what it takes to take the stuff, the wires and stuff like that, off of the throttle body that are mounted to the plenum and stuff, and then move from there. I pulled this push screw, or this push clip, out from that hole right there. I pulled the tube off of the back of the elbow that goes into the intake here behind the throttle body. It's just sitting off to the side back here. And now I am going to pull this tube off as well, and then look at what it's going to take to remove this box. So I pulled these little 10mm nuts off the intake manifold, and I pulled this stud off of there. Let me show you where this goes. There's one nut right here on the front. There's one nut right here on the front, that little stud, because this intake manifold has studs that have to fit into the bracket. And then on the back, I pulled this harness here, it's got this little push deal that fits over this bracket. So I pulled the nut off this corner, I pulled the nut right here off this corner, and then I pulled that Christmas tree thing, the gray. Let me see if I can get a light on it. Then I pulled this right here off of the stud that holds that bracket on the side. You can see where it goes right there in that bolt hole. And then I freed that up from the intake manifold, and that should give me enough to be able to slide this intake up and back out of the way. There's a elbow off the back of that plenum. It's like one of those pressure tabs that just want to pop up, so I'm going to try to pop that up real quick and then free up the intake manifold. It is a tab that kind of, you got to pull it up on a certain angle. You can see here Maybe somebody else that has done the tune-up or something before has broke this thing, but it does have a ball that it sits on. It needs to be pulled up towards the firewall and not like straight up. It needs to be pulled up on the angle the stud is on, and it just literally pops right off of there. I'll be able to go ahead and secure this and fix it, or put some epoxy on it to help hold that in there, but I'm just glad that I was able to get it off. Now I should be able to work on getting the manifold bolts and stuff out of here to get this thing freed up to get it to slide back that way. So there's a series of studs, one here, 8mm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Now it's free, and you can slide it back up out of the way. Now let me show you what I did. I'm not telling you to do this, but this is how I did it. I've done this a lot of times in a pinch. I went ahead and pulled that quick connect fuel line right here off of that rail. But what you got to do, you unlock the blue tab, and then you push in the center part. You push in hard until it expands, and then I took a rag and I held it over it and pulled it off just real slow and let it bleed out. There's a lot of pressure in this line. I'm not telling you to do this. What you can do in that instance is, before you even start this job, get it to a spot where you know you're going to be working on it. Find your fuel pump fuse, pull it, start the vehicle up, and let it run out of fuel. Do your job, and then at the end put the fuel pump fuse back in, prime it with a couple key cycles, let it run, 10-15 seconds, shut it off. Let it run 15 seconds, shut it off, even if it's a push button. Touch it, let it turn on, 15 seconds, shut it off, and then prime your system back up. But right now, the way it sits, I've depressurized the fuel system. I did get some loose fuel and stuff down in here, but that'll evaporate quick. Now I need to run to the parts store, and I'm going to have to... Oh, wait, real quick. While you're in here, you need to think about doing the plugs on this. Go ahead and put a new set of plugs in if you're up for your maintenance. She's at about 65,000. So I'm going to put a set of spark plugs in here while I'm here. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go around and disconnect each one of these coil packs, and then you're going to have to go around and disconnect your fuel injectors as well. Now you can see I've got all the injectors unplugged. I've got all the ignition coils unplugged. I've got my fuel line, or my harness pulled back here out of the way, and I tucked it up under the AC line. So, series of 8mm bolts, I was wrong. Those don't have to come off. Those just attach the fuel rail to the plastic. 8mm all the way around. I got to get that plastic tab off real quick, and then this thing just like literally lifts up out of there. Okay, we are down to the cooler. Now you can see all the oil that's been running through there and then running. See it? It's all underneath those sensors right there. It's all over right in here. So what I'll do now is I'll go get a little piece of emery cloth while I'm there so I can clean all these surfaces off around the ports, stuff rags down in them. Look how nice and clean those valves are with that port injection. Super clean. Very nice. Good job, Chrysler, for that. Now, let's go get the right e-torque socket, which I realize I don't have that. I should have got that today. That should have been something I seen right away. And I'm actually going to go buy a pair of coolant line hose pliers so I can pinch this coolant line off right here and not lose a bunch of coolant. And all these have to be disconnected, obviously. This, I think, is your how would you get that off there? Oh, there. Let me mess with that so I can see how I get that out of there. I know you pull the red collar back. I gotta figure out how to unlock it. So I ran to the parts store real quick and I got a rail, just a random rail of Torx sockets. It's a 7-piece socket set. And the one I needed was an E8. And that's this one right here. And that's what I'm going to use to take off those. So now I'm going to get in there right now and zip those torques out of there, out of that cooler. And yeah, I'm going to try to pull that up out of there with that coolant line attached, because I forgot the pliers that I needed. And I'm going to have to take that coolant line out of that strap right there, and then pry that connector out down there, or that little push clip. So you'll have to be careful, because when I pulled that, coolant filled up the center of the valley, and then I had to take like a bunch of pig mat and put it in there and dry it all up and get it out. You're going to lose the coolant that's in there, and then that's it. You won't lose any more outside of that. So you will fill up that area right there, and then it'll stop. And you'll have to dry it all out, and then try to clean up the surfaces where the new cooler mounts the best you can. You'll find some of it's more staining and not so much embedding. You can't grab it, feel it with your nail. And when just make sure your bolt holes are cleaned out, like the threaded areas. You see that I still got some coolant in that bolt hole right over there. I'm gonna have to get that out of there, and then I'm gonna set the new cooler and stuff in and kind of nicely, evenly torque it down. You're gonna start. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten this one, then go over here, tighten this one, then come back over here, tighten this one, then go back over there, tighten that one, then I'm gonna come back to this corner over here and tighten that one. I'm just gonna cross it. Now what you'll do is you'll lube up your O-rings, some coolant, some oil. This is your oil port right here. These are your coolant ports. Just lube them all up, get some nice film of some kind of lubricant on them, and then go ahead and slide this thing back down in there nice and easy. Okay, I have the manifold contact area all cleaned off. I got the cooler installed. How I torqued it down was I went there, 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 back in the corner, and then I went back through one more time just to make sure. I got my coolant line on. My bottom sensor in here comes with the kit, top sensor, and then now I'm going to go ahead and quickly swap out plugs, and then we're going to just put everything back together, and at that point I'll just show you what it's like with the vehicle running. So I've got the plugs all in front and back, and finishing up the last coil pack. And what I'll do next is I'll go get that lower intake manifold and start swapping over the gaskets right here that came with the kit. I'll start swapping all the gaskets, upper and lower, over on the bottom here and on the top. Get all them swapped over. And just in case you're interested in what plug I used, this is an Autolite Iridium XP, and the part number is XP5701. I think I paid like $8 a plug for them. Looks like she had some kind of Champion stuff in there. Yeah, it was time. It was time. There's not very much left of the electrode, and it really burned back. Not bad, but it was definitely time for them to be changed. So I'm gonna get around to that right now. So I've got gaskets lower done, bolted down, started in the middle, kind of crossed my way out, and then hooked my fuel line back in, put new gaskets in the top that goes to the upper manifold. Then I went ahead and laid my fuel injector harness and my coil pack harness back in there on both sides, front and back. Clipped everything back in. Now I'm ready to set my upper intake manifold in. Remember, it's got the studs hanging out of the end right here, and they have to go in the brackets first. Well, don't do what I did and forget to put the foam back in there, so now I got to pull this back out real quick. Luckily I caught it before it was too late. So far so good. It's running. Coolant level is good. No leaks, no oil down inside there.